So, first things first. If you're one of the people that brings snacks and frivolity and excitement to roll dice and move miniatures around on that table with cup holders in my apartment, if you're one of the Rangers of Shabu Deep, this video is not for you. Click away. Click away. Go. Get out of here. There's spoilers in here that you don't want. Trust me. Okay. For the rest of you scoundrels, let's make something. Greetings, good humans, and welcome to Tabletop Alchemy, where sometimes we get excited to craft up some stuff for upcoming skirmish games with friends. And we thank our patrons for facilitating some of the fun resources that are going to make these games fun. And my game mastering like a tick easier. Thank you guys. All right. So, we know everything in life functions like a roller coaster, right? I mean, there are ups and downs, and that's just how it goes. Now, sometimes we're excited, and sometimes we're not. And sometimes we're inspired, and sometimes we're not. Today, I'm excited and inspired, and I'm motivated. And it's all due to my gaming group, my Rangers of Shabu Deep, and the actual game, Rangers of Shadow Deep. Specifically, the big main mission in the main rulebook called, the one called Burning Light. Now, at first, I was a little freaked out and overwhelmed looking at how Burning Light is laid out. In the Rangers game, we have missions that In the Rangers game, we have missions that encapsulate a series of scenarios, right? We're going to get through this, trust me. You and me, together. We can do it. I have faith in us. Yes. So, typically, in the Rangers game, at least in the beginning, missions that lead up to Burning Light, there are a series of missions that basically encapsulate a series of scenarios. And each scenario is a game, a skirmish match, right? And the overall mission in Burning Light revolves around our group of Rangers, our warband, having to go into the ruins of the convent of Saint Amelia and search for a magical artifact called the Decanter of Saint Amelia. So now, up to this point in our Rangers campaign, the scenarios so far have been a linear progression of skirmish maps, basically. Now, the deal with Burning Light is that the Rangers have a map of the convent compound so they can see all the different buildings and then decide which area they want to go into at whatever time or in whatever order they feel like. This means that I need to be able to lay out terrain for each possible scenario at any given time and in any order. And I need to have all the individual location terrain bits ready to go as well, because each location has a totally different, layout of scatter terrain and key items and enemy models or, monsters. So, as you can see in the map, there are 8 individual locations, and each location also has its own, room shape, right? Which requires either me constructing 8 full buildings or, that's right, modular walls that can be rearranged. Hopefully, easily and, structurally, with some structural integrity into different arrangements. So, yeah, it was a little overwhelming looking at the possibilities of what we're going to need on the table at any given moment. Now, I've been a fan of a YouTube channel called RP Archive for quite a while, and as luck would have it, my collector gene has come in handy once again. And yes, this is me justifying my penchant for buying things. And you do the same thing. Don't mock me. Dang it. Now, RP Archive has stacks of videos on fabricating incredibly cool magnetic modular walls and all kinds of other tabletop terrain, a lot of it based on magnetizing modular components. Most of it made out of foam and stuff. So a year or so ago, maybe 2 years at this point, I actually purchased a handful of tiny magnets and the specific hot glue gun that RP Archive recommended for crafting his modular wall system with the magnet size that he recommends. And while I've used the hot glue gun for other projects, the magnets have just been sitting in my stash of hobby supplies waiting to be used. I originally intended to build a collection of dungeon tiles, because I haven't done that yet, and there are a few games I want to play that would make use of such a classic system that every hobby tabletop YouTuber in the world has created. dungeon tiles. And I've even gone so far as to design on paper months ago all the tiles I wanted to make by size and shape and magnet placement and all sorts of stuff. And on top of all that, I have a Proxxon hot wire cutter that I bought a long time ago, specifically to make precision cuts on XPS foam. And I've used it once just to make sure it worked. Then I put it away because it's a pain in the ass to store in the working mode, and I shouldn't have room for it anywhere, so back in the box it went, where it's been waiting, just like the magnets, to be used. And yes, today's the day. The magnets are coming out, the Proxxon's coming out, the foam's coming out, and I did all that stuff off camera. Because I got excited to use it, but I was unsure about how to set it up, and I was kind of learning as I went, and yeah, I'm also, a really good YouTuber who finds it very difficult sometimes to actually get work done while having to film it. It's really not something I should be doing, is it? In fact, a few months ago, I did a video where I speedcrafted some dungeon walls for a Rangers game, and I didn't even get out the Proxxon for that. I just used a craft knife and a ruler. But I did take a short video here to show you at least the setup and the cut foam pieces that I did, just to prove I actually took the thing out of the box and used it. So there, you're welcome. Have a donut. I will say one thing, having used the Proxxon now to cut a range of pieces, all very simple cuts, to be sure, but having used it, I like it quite a bit. I would really like to use it anytime I need to cut some foam, at least, flat pieces or whatever. It just really is a pain to find a place to store the thing when it's not in use, because it has that vertical bar where the wire comes down, and it just takes up a lot of space, and there's not a lot of space in my place. So I probably have to break it down again, which will guarantee, of course, that as soon as I do, I'll need it again right away. It's just the way things work, right? Anyway, I went through the individual scenario maps in the rulebook to figure out how many walls and at what lengths I was going to need to build each of the different rooms. So I sketched out each map in my notebook, and you can see where I kind of decided things like, okay, this section here will be a 6-inch section, and this will be a 24-inch section, and this will be a 12-inch section, and that's an 18-inch wall. And then, of course, on top of all the modular wall sections, I knew I would need these, I'm just calling them joiner blocks, basically half-inch by half-inch blocks that would have magnets on multiple sides that would facilitate all the corners. Now, these joiner blocks will also allow me to put different wall sections together to make longer walls too, right? I mean, that's not actually necessary because the walls will have magnets in them, and they can just click together and they can become longer walls. But if I put a joiner in there, which have magnets on 3 faces, then I can put a T intersection wall, right? So then I went through my sketches and counted up the maximum number of each wall length I would need for any given scenario, and then made a list of what wall sections I needed to cut out that would basically give me all the pieces I needed to build any of the possible 8 scenario locations. The walls, anyway. I even decided to reuse some of the previous walls I had in that other video. Most of those were cut to 18 inches, and so I cut some of those down because they're already painted and textured, which, is good for that lazy gene some of us possess. I'm not pointing fingers. Don't worry, your secret is safe, just like mine. Now, the magnets have to go into the facing ends of each wall section, and to make everything work right, the magnets have to be placed at the same position in each wall. So I had to make a template that would allow me to easily mark both ends of each wall in the same way. It's no big deal. I decided to make a little jig out of Sintra. It's not super duper exact because I'm not super duper precise as a person. These are foam walls for a beer and friends game. This ain't aircraft parts machining, so, we're fine. I glued up that jig with super glue, and it just slides onto the end of a 3-inch piece of half-inch foam, which is what the walls are cut out of. And then I use my little puncher punch to punch little divots into the ends of the foam pieces to tell me where all the magnets gotta go. So, time to rev up the hot glue gun and get the magnets out. Now, the main thing you gotta do when you're magnetizing modular walls is you have to be very conscious of the direction the magnets are facing when you stick them in the walls. Because obviously, if you put them in the, opposing directions, the magnet polarization will result in the opposite of magnetizing. The magnets aren't marked in any way, so you just got to kind of come up with a system that'll keep you in line directionally as you go. I basically applied the first 2 magnets in the first wall face, and then I just let that be the constant marker that I would check back and forth between to make sure I was putting the magnets. Oh boy, I ain't even had my beer yet. Just to make sure I was putting the magnets in the correct orientation in the walls. Now, this glue gun I'm using here is the one recommended, as I mentioned, by RP Archive based on the size of the magnets he uses for his walls. And this is because this particular model of glue gun has an extended tube element that is the exact diameter that's perfect for melting magnet holes into the foam. And then you gun a little glue in there and push in a magnet. Wait a second for it to cool and break the magnet off the magnet stack. Voila, easy peasy. In fact, this little process here got to be pretty fun, and I just kept wanting to install more magnets and more foam. I even did a couple extra wall sections I wasn't planning to do just to keep magnetizing things. And actually, right before I started recording this video, I realized that I'm motioning over here because I have various chunks of foam in various states of painting. The 24-inch wall sections, I think I'm actually going to cut all those down into 6-inch pieces so that I can have much more. I'll just have a bunch more walls that I can modularly make into other configurations in the future. Initially, I did up 4 6-inch walls and 4 joiner blocks so that I could test the actual function of these things and make sure everything was, gonna work. And it was good I tested this. I mean, I would have discovered this one little hiccup eventually, but it's good to find the hiccup as soon as possible, right? Now, everything worked well, and yes, having magnetized walls click together is as satisfying as it seems. But in my test here, I realized that my joiner block magnet setup wouldn't actually work for one of the corners. Now, I had originally planned to just magnetize 3 of the 4 faces of each joiner block, so I could essentially just save a few magnets here and there, I guess. But putting 4 walls together let me understand that I had to at least magnetize some of the joiner blocks on all 4 faces so that I could put an entire square together and it would work right. It's all good. I just get to install more magnets. Now, I can't complete everything for this video, but there will be a part 2 and probably even a part 3. Actually, undoubtedly there will be a part 3. So now I have all these wall sections that are magnetized and I need to texture some of them and paint them up to match the other existing walls I had. But that ain't all we're doing in this video. This is where the Scatterbrain comes into this whole terrain thing. Dude, this Burning Light mission has me just kind of excited with all the stuff that might surprise the players. So part 2 or part 3, we'll chat about raiding the Pile of Opportunity Terrain Edition for various bits and bobs and statues and fallen statues and other things. But of course, all the monster models I need to paint up to fight the Rangers. And right now I wanted to do something that I was immediately excited to do when I first read through the mission in the book. And it's something we already talked about, the map. Now, this is a perfect opportunity to do something very D&D. It's not something I would do if I was playing this game solo or even playing co-op, but because I'm basically DMing these scenarios for other players, I was like, yeah, I think they're gonna like this, which is, again, the map, right? So the idea is that the players look at the map and decide where they want to go. So they need a copy of the map. I mean, I could just, hand them the book. Sure, that's one way to do it. The other way is to just make it more fun. So I got a piece of paper and I sketched the map onto it just with a pencil. I don't really know what I'm doing. Maybe I should have used a pen. Actually, charcoal might have been a cool thing to use. Anyway, I just sketched it out. I made sure the proportions were vaguely accurate. They don't really matter. And I wrote out the name of the location. This is supposed to be like maybe a map that another ranger who scouted the place made while she was out running around playing tag with the undead in the Shadow Deep. And so, yeah, it's a hand-drawn map that they get. And here is where my spirits were crushed, because my most fun little detail, in my opinion, was not captured on video because my stupid camera card ran out of space. Stupid space. I took the pencil and I held it in my fist so I could scribble on this final little note from the map maker to whoever found the map, and it says, "Beware the terror." And then it just sort of scribbles off the page. And I thought that would be a cool little detail for the players to see, right? And then I was like, this map maker was probably either bleeding when she wrote that, or her hands might be full of monster blood when she scrawled it on there as a warning for her brothers and sisters in arms back in the land of the sun. And yeah, I thought it would be cool to add some bloody fingerprints to the map. So I just put some red paint on a paper towel and smashed my thumb into it, and then fingers, and sort of, just fingerprinted the map with some bloody prints. And then I was like, oh, let me splatter some blood on there too. Now the brush I'm using to do this was the biggest one I had within reach, but it's making a pretty fine spray, and I definitely needed some bigger splatters on there. But hey, this is just for fun. We're not spending a ton of time on it. My players are probably just going to spill beer on it anyway, so, or guacamole, one of the two. Anyway, if they watch this, they'll think that I'm berating them for stuff. I'm not at all. I'm just making jokes. They don't spill things. They're very classy individuals. Now, except for the fart jokes. Now, we just take that paper and scrunch it all up and unfold it and then smooth it and then scrunch it up again. And, we're just making it look all worn or whatever. And then I went to the kitchen and doused the whole thing in some watered down burnt umber ink. And there it is, halfway dry. It's a little orangey, doesn't really look like parchment. That's fine. Once it's dry, I'm going to roll it up and I'm going to tie it with a little leather thread thing. And I'm just going to hand it to my players and say, hey, check this out, guys. You found it down in the Shadow Deep. And then they can unroll it and point out where they want to go. And then we'll build the rooms on the fly with the magnetic walls, and game on. Now, one last quick thing that I wanted to make were a couple of stairwell markers, because there are a couple scenarios that take place on the second floor of a building, and they need stairwells marked so that the players have a spot on the table to enter or exit a room from, which is like it's a strategic thing during the game. So I Googled D&D map token art stairs and just printed these out on my black and white laser printer. I don't want to just put paper down on the table, although, we're going to do that for another terrain effect later. That'll be in part 3 or something. But I thought these might come in handy in the future, so I thought I'd use double stick tape to adhere them to a couple squares of styrene that's like, 1/32 of an inch thick. Again, just super easy. And maybe I'll actually go back and put little brown touches. I could paint onto the paper and color the stairs, since my printer's is black and white, or not. It doesn't really matter. It's just for fun and utility, and it's gonna work great, I think. So maybe let yourself be scatterbrained. I mean, we're all scatterbrained at some point. Maybe revel in it and just make some stuff if you're excited. Just run with it. Whatever comes to mind, bang it out. Do some projects in pieces, all simultaneously, all laid out around your workspace. It's fun, and that's what this is all about, right? See ya.